the slides you created. So this is also going to give people a chance to read those slides if they haven't done so yet. We've got a CEO shadow program, and part of the goal of that is to create opportunities for the CEO to develop relationships with team members across the company and to identify challenges and opportunities earlier. I was looking at the list of CEO shadows, those in the current rotation and those in the alumni, and they seemed very engineering and product heavy to me. Like the number of people in that list from engineering and product seemed quite high. And I was wondering, like, are we tracking that? Should we be tracking that? Like, is that a problem? Because if we want to get perspectives from across the company and we're not getting, we don't need necessarily a complete, equal distribution, like proportionate to how many people are in each function. But if we're getting overrepresentation from some areas, it seems like that will have effects on achieving that goal.
Yep, thanks for that. They're certainly more represented. It's due to a merge request that was sent to the eligibility criteria for the shadow program. I think if you're in product, it's easier to get in. Maybe someone can link that. And so we have more product managers taking advantage of that. We should look at the merge request, what the reasoning at the time was. So far, I think I'm a more product-oriented CEO. So I tend to have more kind of opinions around product. And today was a good example. At 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, I was in a meeting with Kenny and some other PMs to talk about the monitoring vision. So I think it makes sense for me and for them to have a tighter connection, because I'm more into the weeds and into the details with products than I am with other parts of the company. That being said, I think we had very few people. Well, we'd have to look a bit. No, we did have some people from sales, but I do agree that people from all departments should be represented in the program. I'm thinking what department we didn't have yet. I think we had few people from People Ops so far.
Have we had anyone from finance? I'm asking. I haven't checked. I'm just checking now.
Well, we should check.
But yeah, I think obviously it's not been going for that long, but it would be interesting to me as someone who hasn't any particular interest in doing it directly, like to see how we evolve that as it goes forward. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. And yeah, just so everyone understands, it's totally fine to ask questions that aren't in the slides. The slides are just there to solicit questions.
Hey, Sid, it's John Coughlin. I'll add my question to the doc in a second, but just wanted to verbalize it first. So over the summer, we launched our GitLab Heroes program. The Heroes program is a program to kind of engage, support, and recognize our top community contributors, whether they're contributing blog posts and videos, giving talks at conferences, or organizing meetups. We've noticed that the program, the applications have been almost entirely from folks that would identify as men. Very few, just a couple of women out of the 200 plus applications that we've received. One of the things I've been thinking about is proposing a name change for the program to something more inclusive than Heroes, because Heroes traditionally has like a male connotation. Just curious, since you were kind of involved in the creation or the genesis of that program, but wondering what your thoughts are on the name change and whether that's something that we should consider.
Yeah, I'm not wedded to the name. If it helps with diversity, we should absolutely rename it. It's been a tough one to name because I think advocates is a natural one, but we already have them at GitLab. Supporters might be an option. But anyway, I'm fine. Hopefully we can find a term that is messy-fu, but diversity and inclusion is a value at GitLab. Messy-fu isn't. So I'd rather have overlap and a more diverse set of people than the perfect name and a very imperfect program. So definitely open to change it. Ratio-wise, maybe it's good to also actively reach out to people that we think are a fit. Obviously, the eligibility criteria are the same, whether a person is from a diverse group or not. But we do have a lever that we can pull by inviting people into the program.
Thanks, Sid. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Priyanka and Emily Chin to make sure that the rebranding is messy-fu with their program, so we're not, overlapping on that side also. So thanks.
Yeah, and Sean had a thing like maybe we want to validate that is a program. It makes sense to me that Hero appeals more to men on average than women, but it's maybe good to ask a few people that you think are a good fit. Like, hey, first of all, you're invited. Then second, what was the reason for not applying? And also, we have a not so secret weapon in the form of Priyanka, so it might be good to have her do some of the outreach.
Hey, if it's okay to interject here, I just ran the numbers. So of the 16 Shadow alumni, 6 are from marketing, 2 are from sales, 4 from engineering, and only 2 from product. So
no finance, no people ops.
I participated as part of finance when I was on the Shadow program, and Meltano has had 1, but no people ops.
So for the alumni, that's true, but there are many PMs in the current rotation, which is where I first noticed this, which is probably because of that merge request.
And I would add that even though I'm one of those sales, I got in through the product manager exemption, right? Because that's how my title works in sales. So
no, I didn't count you on sales because you were on the alumni section.
Cool. Thanks for the data, Emily. And you can just verbalize your question first and write it up later.
Thanks, Sid. Hey, Dan Croft. Hi, everybody. Just wondering about a lot of excitement recently. I'm just wondering what your takeaways from the e-group offsite were that you could share around, direction that we're going in and some sort of, if there are any sort of cultural changes or thoughts about our current values and all that sort of thing. I'm just sort of really curious. I would have loved to have been on CEO Shadow during that e-group offsite because I think it would be really awesome. So just wondering if you could share any thoughts on that, Sid.
Yeah, I'll share first, and then the shadows can augment anything that I've left out. I don't think there's a lot of things that we're not able to discuss there. First of all, with the kind of the 3 things that we got into publicity with, I think it's very important to recognize that they're all kind of different reasons and different solutions. So the last thing we want to do is treat them all equally. I also think it's kind of it's because GitLab kind of like has more visibility now. We've struggled with awareness for a very long time. Now we see what it means to have awareness, and it means that it's harder to live our transparency value, because if you say something that is controversial, you'll more quickly, or if you do something that's controversial, you'll more quickly generate publicity around that, which is a good thing. I'd rather have the awareness, but we need to be a bit do things a bit different. I think the other thing is that there's kind kind of a gap between the E team and individual contributors. Also in these three things that generated external controversy, some of them generated internal controversy as well. And I think there's kind of a management gap between, like, people are almost used to like discussing things directly with the E-group, and that's not going to scale in the company. So it needs to be very clear to all the other managers at the company that they need to be part of the conversation as well. And we should empower them. As for the E-group, we should empower them to do so. So that was another takeaway. Yeah, and only thing I want to add is, like, we got to keep our eye on like the main result, IACV, and we did great. Q3 like was a big bump, and we made it. Q4 is not looking that good, so that should have our full attention. Shadows, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I would just agree, Sid. I was one of the shadows then, not now. I'm off. But yeah, I think that gap is something we talked about a lot, and I tried to bring to the table when I was there. I had originally told myself I was gonna be seen and not heard in those meetings, which Sid laughs, and anybody who knows me laughs, because that's a silly thing for me to think I'm going to be able to do. But because of that, I tried to bridge some of that gap, right? And I'm hopeful that'll be one of the biggest lessons we take away is how we can bridge that gap, because it's important to bridge it in a scalable way and in a way that allows all the fantastic people we're hiring to contribute and goes directly to our mission. So yeah, that was my perspective as well.
Yeah, I think the other shadow isn't on the call right now necessarily. So yeah, cool. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate you sharing, and I realize there's a bunch of stuff in there that you can't share, and so thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm not sure that there's too much we can share, but I can't think of any. What would you like to know that you assume we can share?
Well, I'm not really sure because I haven't been. I know from my experience on the Shadow program, which was awesome, and I encourage everyone to try and get into the program. It was amazing. Such an amazing program. What I guess the big thing I was really interested in is just actually how people are interacting around some of these very, very sort of high profile or very emotive situations. And I kind of assume that there's just conversations going on that you could summarize, but you can't really get into the details of people's different perspectives around the issue. And I feel like that was kind of where I was really curious. It was just, from a sales perspective, we care about IACV, and from this perspective, this is our top goal. But like, what are the different perspectives from the different members of the E-group is kind of why I was like, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we can discuss is like personnel matters, like underperformance and things like that. I think as for perspectives, I think we learned that the engineering voice is not as prominent in the E-group, and that's especially with the telemetry discussion. It had two reasons. First of all, Eric might not like he doesn't agree with everything in that engineering voice, but he does know what people are thinking. So it's a bit weird, but you can vocalize an opinion, even though it's not your own opinion. You can like speak for kind of the hacker community. So he's going to do that more in the future. And for me, I held more of that opinion, but I wanted to, I'm also kind of, I'm leading the group. I want to kind of, it's annoying to be both the chairperson and a participant in a conversation. That is confusing for people. So I really tried really hard to be more of a chairperson for the E-group, but I kind of succeeded a bit too much where I should have voiced my own opinion a bit more. So that's a takeaway for the future.
I guess the other question I have for you on that particular subject, Sid, would be, as CEO, do you see yourself as like our chief culture officer?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yes and no. I think if your company needs a chief culture officer, it's pretty bad. Like there shouldn't be one. Or chief, I'm thinking more of chief values officer. I think the culture officer makes sense. Values officer, not so much. It should be the values are something we all do together. I do think I can bring something to the table with some of our values, and I think transparency is extremely hard if you become a larger company, especially a public company. So I expect a lot of discussions over the next year or two. And one of the things I'm focusing on is making sure that we have data to support what transparency is doing for us. So we'll add a question to our applicant form where we ask like what one of the reasons are they're applying. And we'll add transparency to that so that we can correlate it with things that are very important for us, like people applying to work at the company. And other values, I think it's not so much that they need to be defended, but that they need to be understood. So I'll be doing iteration office hours because iteration is something we want to do, but it's so counterintuitive. It's so non-natural to do it that I think it's more around education, and I want to help with that. But all of the E-team and is a supporter of our values. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been hired. And I think it's not so much the values themselves, but just how to practically do this at scale. And it's hard, and I don't have all the answers. This morning I had a discussion with Kenny, like, is the fact that we're making a 3-year roadmap for some divisions, is that hurting our ability to make a crisp 1-year roadmap for things? If so, that's a big deal. I'm not sure, but it's a conversation I'm going to have with Scott to see where we end up there. Joe?
I've got the next question. You mentioned Q4 was looking a little light. Just wondering if you have any guesses on why that is.
Yeah, and this is a public live stream, so can't go into too much detail. And if we were a public company, we couldn't have this conversation at all in public. It's light because the pipeline is light, and the pipeline is light because kind of 6 months ago, we filled that pipeline. And 6 months ago, we didn't have that many salespeople, and we weren't spending all the marketing dollars we had assigned. And that leads to kind of a weaker pipeline. It's hard to predict Q1 right now, but it's looking stronger. So it's kind of, we had to scale really fast. We were kind of a quarter late in both sales and marketing with doing that. Now, it was still a phenomenal achievement, but we're feeling that quarter late right now. If you have a strong quarter, it's because of what you did 6 months ago or a year ago. It's very, very hard to kind of the sales team did a great job of nailing last quarter, but so there is something you can do in the current quarter, but most of the things are results of decisions made a long time ago.
Right. So 6 months is the typical, I guess, run rate for investment to close.
Yeah. kind of, and it depends. And we're still like, our marketing efforts in Q4 are going to be focused a lot around SMB because we know it's a shorter sales cycle, so we can make up some of the ground we still have to make up.
Thank you. I'll jump in. I have another question. What do you think GitHub does better than us?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you're asking. I think it's important how a product looks, and their product looks better, but also their marketing pages for the product looks better. And it's almost like kind of Stripe-like. And I think because software you use is so complex, it's really hard to tell the quality by using it. So you tend to depend a lot on kind of visual clues. And I think we can still do better there, but I'm not quite sure how, because if on one hand it looks more beautiful, on the other hand, I looked at the color scheme recently. They have like a hard white with then hard blues and things like that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So it's almost like, have I just gotten used to it? Is this like Stockholm syndrome? Our design improved enormously, especially want to call out like the user experience group, who's like doing a great job at that. I think we ship a lot of features, and maybe there's a way to get people more excited about the features. Like our release post is just a big feature dump, and it's great, it's glorious, but we're looking at feature bloggers to be working with PMs and have kind of a history and a background behind every feature, because I think a lot of marketing is storytelling, and we're telling people facts, like this is the new feature we shipped. I think we should tell the story, like who asked for this feature? What was their problem? What did we do? How did this come about? How did we iterate, collaborate, and what is it at now? And we have some amazing features like subgroups that are amazing. Like no one else in the industry has that. It's super important to people, but you couldn't tell that from the marketing we do.
How much of the first part of that, you said, like almost UI, do you think is just kind of preference that developers have with GitHub and, using GitHub since day one?
Yeah, it's a huge component of it. So maybe it's more how the marketing pages look than how the UX actually looks. But like maybe the bar for us should not be GitHub, but should be Stripe. If I go to a Stripe marketing page, it just feels really good. Like it's beautiful. It's super hard. They have few of them and they nail it every time. I'm not sure we can do exactly the same, but it's something to maybe strive for.
Thank you.
Cool. We're very close to time, so thanks for joining and have a great day.